Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me back again. I love all of you so much, and it's such a treat to be here. So thank you. Let me just kind of get set up here for a second. Jean, since you're doing the ushering today, is that what I heard? Jerry, I'm sorry, Jerry. Would you be kind enough to grab these index cards, and later on I'm going to ask you to pass these around. Actually, we've got one half here and one half there. I love it. Being of service already. Woohoo! Awesome, thank you. So, everybody got a bookmark, yes? Awesome. So those are just fun little quotes. Who got the Dr. Seuss quote? Anybody? You got to pick the Dr. Seuss one? Can you read it for us?
Well, I'll try.
I think I know it by heart. It says, unless someone cares a whole awful lot, it's not going to get better. It's not. Yeah. So out of all of the list, that was my favorite one, I have to say. So, as Reverend Donnell was saying, there really is a difference between helping and being of service. And today's talk is actually being based on the work of a wonderful woman. Her name is Dr. Rachel Naomi Remen, and she's a professor of integrative medicine at the University of California in San Francisco. And she works with chronic and terminally ill patients. And if you've never heard of her, I highly recommend doing a little Google search and learning more about her. She just does powerful work. And this particular article she wrote back in 1999, and it was published back then, and it was called Helping, Fixing, or Serving. And so we're going to be getting into that a little bit today. But first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have 3 different ways that we can be of service, and then I'm going to tie it in to what she shared from her article. So you with me? All right, let's do this. Okay, so this very first one is serving that we're already familiar with, and that's when we do something in person in our community. And I think we've got some slides there of showing some people doing some service. And like, for example, Common Ground Corona, I know you've mentioned this several times about the requested items for Corona High School and Backpack Fridays, and this is working with the homeless and underserved youth. And that's such a powerful way that we can do something in person and help each other. And so what Naomi says about, Rachel Naomi Remen says about this, and I love this, I love this, just take this in. She says, serving is different from helping. Helping is not a relationship between equals. A helper may see others as weaker than they are, needier than they are, and people often feel this inequality. The danger in helping is that we may inadvertently take away from people more than we could ever give them. We may diminish their self-esteem, their sense of worth, integrity, and wholeness. And so that's something I just want to chat about for a moment. I know that someone here, last time I was here, mentioned that they work with the homeless. I forget who that was. It was, yes, right? And it's so important that we see the equality in the person, right? Because we don't ever want to look at someone and have them have that sense of, I have something you don't. Right? So I think this is so key and so important, regardless of where we're serving. It could be in a hospital situation, like this doctor is talking about, right? We want the patients to feel whole. We don't want them to feel sick, right? Regardless of the diagnoses, we want them to feel whole. So that's one of the things. The other way that we can be of service is supporting our spiritual centers. We love this place, yes? So we want to support our spiritual center and other nonprofits as well. And we can do this a couple of ways. One is with our time, which I know we've all probably done here. I think you have an amazing group of people that are always being of service here. I see people greeting, and you mention them in the mornings, and all I know is the coffee is made when we get here. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I saw Jean putting towels away, and I know none of this happens just by osmosis. It takes a lot to run a spiritual center. And so I'm so grateful for all that Reverend Danelle does to keep this place moving and running. And so I invite us all to continue to step up in that way. And after service in our healing room, Reverend Danelle has kindly put some little descriptions out for sacred service opportunities so that people can sign up and find your perfect way of serving. And then another way that we can serve in our spiritual community is through giving of our finances. Maybe you work full time and whether it's here or at another nonprofit, we can always give with our finances. And one thing that I know for sure is there's this law of reciprocity of as I give, I receive. A Course in Miracles says, all that I give to myself. And that's because we're all connected and we're all one. When we were doing the meditation, I don't know about y'all, but I was really feeling the love. I was really feeling connected to each and every person here. Did anybody have that experience but me? Yeah? Yeah. Right? So this is how it works. So as I give, I receive. And I know the same thing is true with our finances. So I'm just going to encourage us all, myself included, that whatever we're giving, we're just going to give a little bit more today. Just stretch yourself just a little bit, even if it's just, if you give $5, try and give 10. If you give 10, give 15, 20, double it, so that you can experience that blessing of watching it come back into your life. And so what she has to say about this, and I think this is very powerful, she says, serving makes us aware of our wholeness and its power. The wholeness in us serves the wholeness in others, and the wholeness in life. The wholeness in you is the same as the wholeness in me. Service is a relationship between equals. Our service strengthens us as well as others. And so this is what I was saying about when we're visiting someone in the hospital or working with the homeless, or serving in our spiritual community, always coming from that space of wholeness, right? There is a definite power in that. And here's something for volunteers that I think is just key and critical. And I think this is a reason why some people don't like to volunteer. And that's because somewhere in their past, perhaps, they got burned out. They just did too much, yeah? We've all been there, all of us, right, at some point in time. Here's the really cool thing. She says, fixing and helping are draining. And over time, we may burn out. But service is renewing. When we serve, our work itself will renew us. In helping, we may find a sense of satisfaction, but in serving, we find a sense of gratitude. I got a yes back there, yes. Have you experienced that before? I have. And I know the difference now. When I'm feeling drained, I can just check in with myself and go, Kimberly, are you trying to fix somebody or something? Right? Am I trying to see someone as not equal with me, so I'm helping, like I've got something they don't? That's draining of my energy. But when I really practice seeing that equality and being of that space of wholeness, I feel energized. Yeah. And I know this is how I bring myself back into alignment, is being in that space of gratitude and wholeness. And then the third way of being of service is through our spiritual practices. And I think we've got another slide coming up. I love this picture. Sending our love out into the world. Yes. A Course in Miracles says that's my only purpose for being here, is to extend love. That's it. It's pretty simple, actually. And there are infinite ways that we can do this, right? So I thought what I'd talk about really briefly, just because I think this just boggles my mind anyway, is the impact that we have when we're doing our spiritual work. So yes, we can certainly be of service in person. We can serve at our spiritual center. We can gift our time and our finances. And when we do our spiritual work, we can just be sitting at home, whether it's meditation or prayer or singing like Gina does. I know that's a spiritual practice. Whatever that is that you do uniquely, it's having an effect on all of us everywhere. Again, because we're all connected and we're all one. And I think this is just so much fun. It's a scientific experiment that was actually done in Washington, D.C. back in 1993 with transcendental meditation. And they actually worked with the police department. Has anybody ever heard of this study before? Oh, okay, listen up. This is good stuff, right? Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to have to read some of this because it's just too cute the way it's written. I could tell it to you, but I don't want to leave some of this out. Whoever wrote this article did such a great job. They said, based on previous experience, the meditation group predicted in advance they would reduce crime by over 20%. That was their goal going into Washington, okay? And this impact would be made quietly and discreetly without any physical interaction with the community. At the time, the local police authority ridiculed this prediction. The police chief actually went on record to assert that the only event that would reduce crime that much in Washington during those hot summer months would be 20 inches of snow. Isn't that clever? So, during the first 5 months, prior to that research, so from like January up until the summer, right, the crime had been steadily increasing. And it continued to increase the first 2 weeks of the project. However, as the meditators kept doing their work and seeing Washington, you know, with surrounding it in peace and love and doing their meditation, guess what happened? Yes, it started to decrease, and actually it decreased more than 20%. It decreased over 23% just from the meditators doing their work. Contrary to the police chief's predictions, Washington did not benefit from 20 inches of snow. In fact, it was extremely hot and had record highs. And when the research team analyzed the same period, just for scientific purposes, in the previous years, they had no significant decreases in crime during those periods. This was definitely a one-time event. And just for fun, the emergency psychiatric calls decreased, the hospital trauma cases decreased, complaints against the police decreased, accidental deaths decreased, and the quality of life index improved. Isn't that powerful? Just from meditating. So, you know, I know we've all heard this phrase, where two or more are gathered. We can certainly do the work individually, and I know that when we come together as we did this morning and we meditate together, it increases even more, as we've seen here. And this is all backed up by science. If you're interested, I can show you where online to look at all the scientific research done, you know, the way that peer reviewed and published in journals. One thing that I do is I have a group of friends where every day at 9, 12, 3, 6, and 9, I have a little chime going off on my iPhone so that it just reminds me. And I just take 5 seconds, just to take a breath and just remember what we felt this morning in the meditation, that oneness, that peace, that love, that kindness, that generosity. And then continue on. And so what I know is that a group of us are doing that at 9, 12, 3, 6, and 9 every day, and in different time zones. So it's not just happening here in California. We've got this going on all over the world. And so our goal is to do what these meditators did, where we're just sending out loving thoughts, right? And so I just invite, if you're interested, to do that with me. Why not? It feels good. And so I have one last thing I'm going to read from her here about our spiritual practices and service. She says, service is not an experience of strength or expertise. Service is an experience of mystery, of surrender and awe. Helpers and fixers feel causal, like they're causing something to happen, right? Servers may experience from time to time a sense of being used by larger unknown forces. Those who serve have traded in a sense of mastery for an experience of mystery. And in doing so have transformed their work and their lives into a spiritual practice. So it becomes a way of life. Jean, you're nodding your head. I know you know about this. She loves to hug. That's her spiritual practice, is hug, hug, hug. So what I'd like to do, if my ushers, if Jerry and, why am I blanking on your name all of a sudden? Nathan and Jerry would come forward, and if you would just pass out those cards to everyone. Oh, you did it already. You guys are so fast. You got your cards already. And I believe there are pencils in front of you, yes? Everybody grab a pencil. And we're just going to do a fun little experiment here. And what you're going to do is somewhere on your card is just write your name on the front of your card. And you're going to be able to take this home. And I like to use it just as a reminder if I'm ever in a space where I'm not feeling connected, and it's just a fun little thing to do. So you're going to put your name on one side. And then I'm just going to have you find a partner. It could be someone you're here with sitting next to you, or someone across the aisle, or whatever, but just find yourself a partner. And we're going to practice seeing the equality, what we were just talking about, what Dr. Rachel Naomi Remen was just talking about here. So you're going to work together? Perfect. Awesome. Okay, so what you're going to do is, we're not going to do the yoga eye-gazing version of this, so it's not going to be that intimate. We can do that another time if you're interested. But what we're going to do is just take a moment and just look at your partner, just very briefly here. Just take a moment, look at your partner, and I want you to see those God qualities in your partner. Just whatever comes to your mind. Just maybe you see peace in them, love in them, joy in them, kindness, generosity, whatever just pops in. You don't have to overthink it. Just look at your partner's eyes for a moment. And now what I want you to do is take your card and give it to your partner. And now your partner is going to write what they saw. So partners, write those God qualities. If you saw happiness in someone, write happiness. If you saw peace in someone, write peace. It doesn't have to be a long letter. I bought little index cards. I didn't buy big ones. Okay, so keeping it brief. Otherwise, we'll be here all day writing love letters, right? Yeah. So just maybe one or two little qualities there. Okay. So we're going to take about 10 more seconds and finish up. Great. And now when you're finished, I want you to hand your partner's card back to them and read what they wrote about you.
Nathan, you look scared to death.
So you can take a moment and acknowledge your partner and what they wrote about you there. Yeah. And here's what I got some giggles and laughs and kisses. We got kisses. That's beautiful. And so here's what I'd like for us to all remember. When we're looking at that person and we're seeing those God qualities, that's that space of equality that she's been talking about in all of these writings. Yes? So I keep this little index card. I've got many of these cards from doing this exercise, and I've done longer versions of this. But I like to keep them handy, whether it's in my purse, my pocket, or wherever, so that if I'm ever a time when I've forgotten who I am, I'm not feeling hooked up, I'm not feeling loving or kind, I pull these out, and I see what other people saw in me. And I'm like, oh, okay, they saw it in me, so it must be in there. Okay. And check it out. Here's the really, really cool part. What they saw in you were all mirrors of each other. You could not have seen it in that person unless it were already within you. It's very powerful. I don't always own my own beauty, right? But if someone else says, that they saw radiance or beauty, I can take that in. So if I'm seeing radiance and beauty in you, it has to be in me before I could see it in you. Let's own that. Right? That's exactly right. Powerful, yes? Yes. So that's another reason I carry that card with me. So, yes. So what I'd like to leave you with before I close is to sum all of this up. There's a beautiful man that I saw years ago. He's a little Italian man with very broken English. And I heard him speak, and his spiritual practice for this extending love and being of service and making it a way of life is his name is Brother Silvio Danio. And he's from the Focolare movement in Italy. It means hearth fire. And they're all about being of service. And you can look that up online too. It's a very beautiful movement. And he said, I do three things. And the first one, he said, and by the way, if I tell you how many times I fail at this, we'd be here all day. But this is my attempt of what I try to do every day. He said, the first one is to love everyone. And he said, that can be challenging, to love everyone, because it's easy when somebody already loves us, right? That's easy. But for that person who's perhaps I'm perceiving them as being unkind or holding a grudge or whatever that is, my job is to love everyone. The second one is to love all the time. Not just after I've had my coffee in the morning, which I did appreciate. But to love all the time, even when I'm not feeling it. Perhaps I've, got a headache or I'm a little under the weather, right? To still be in that space of love. And then the last one he said, this is the big one, is to be the first to love. Again, it's easy to love someone else who already loves us, but to be the first to love. And what I can tell you is what he said is that when I've been able to do that and truly practice this as a way of life, oh, talk about freedom. This is good stuff, right? Because then it just doesn't matter. I can go through life completely independent of what's going on around me, independent of circumstances, places, people, things, doesn't matter. Because I've learned that the love comes from within, right? The love comes from within. I got lots of smiles and yeses of people who agree with that. So, yes, so I just wanted to leave that with you. I actually had the privilege of speaking with Brother Silvio a year later after he gave this talk. I literally ran into, what are the odds?
I know.
100%. And I was so excited. And I was like, oh my goodness. When you said those three things, I went home, I wrote them down, I carried them with me. And just like you, I've been trying every single day to practice it, and my life has changed. And he said, Kimberly, he said, if I could, I would add one more thing. And I said, what's that? And he said, do it now. Don't wait, do it now. I went, good, thank you. So I just wanted to leave that with you, and thank you so much again for having me here today. If this has been inspiring to you and you want to step it up and be of service, in our room here after service, in our healing room, as Nathan said, it's a healing room, right? We can go in and sign up and look at all the wonderful service opportunities that she has ready for us, okay? Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.